Vivienne Blackthorn. The chipped porcelain of the teacup warmed Vivienne Blackthorn's hands, a small comfort against the perpetual damp of the cottage. Retirement, she'd thought, would be an endless series of quiet afternoons, tending her herbs and observing the predictable rhythm of the village. But predictability, she was discovering, was a fragile illusion. The mark on her palm, a swirling crimson brand she'd long ignored, pulsed faintly, a dull ache that mirrored the unsettling stillness of the air. For 60 years, she'd suppressed the memories, the knowing, but now it stirred. The legacy of a blood-marked lineage, a history she desperately tried to outrun. The scent of chamomile offered no solace. Something was coming. A raven arrived with a message, not delivered by beak and claw, but within the bird. Vivienne found a single, withered black rose tucked into its feathers, along with a scrap of parchment bearing a single chilling word: awakening. Old Man Hemlock, the village elder, dismissed it as the ramblings of a superstitious farmer. But Vivienne knew better. The mark flared, burning now, and a tremor ran through the cottage. This wasn't a local matter, it was a summons to something ancient, something she'd vowed to forget. The awakening, it seemed, wasn't someone else's, it was hers. No, Vivienne stated, the word brittle in the quiet room. She carefully placed the rose in a lead-lined box, attempting to contain whatever dark energy clung to it. I buried that life. I earned this peace. She busied herself with her herbs, meticulously crushing lavender and mint, as if the scent could ward off the inevitable. She'd spent decades building a life of anonymity, of quiet contemplation. To re-enter that world, a world of shadows and sacrifice, was unthinkable. Let someone else answer this ridiculous call. But the pulsing in her palm intensified, a relentless, insistent demand. The woman arrived with the fog, appearing on the edge of Vivienne's garden as if materialized from the mist itself. She introduced herself only as Isolde, and carried no possessions save for a tarnished silver locket and an unsettlingly calm demeanor. Isolde explained, with a chilling matter-of-factness, that Vivienne was a veil keeper, one of the last remaining protectors against the encroaching darkness. She offered Vivienne not encouragement, but instruction, a worn leather-bound grimoire filled with archaic symbols and unsettling rituals. The mark doesn't offer you a choice, Isolde said, her voice barely a whisper. It is your choice. Vivienne, driven by a bleak resignation, crossed the threshold. It wasn't a physical boundary, but a shift in perception. The cottage, once a haven, felt thin, as if layers of reality had peeled away. She followed Isolde into the Whisperwood, a forest shunned by the villagers, its trees gnarled and ancient. With each step, the mark on her palm burned brighter, guiding her toward a hidden clearing where a stone altar stood, bathed in an eerie moonlight. She recited the first incantation from the grimoire, the words tasting like ash on her tongue. There was no turning back. The Whisperwood tested Vivienne at every turn. She battled shadowy creatures born of regret and despair, their forms shifting and indistinct. She formed a reluctant alliance with a gruff, solitary hunter named Bram, whose knowledge of the forest proved invaluable. But she also drew the attention of a malevolent entity known only as the Collector, a being who sought to claim the power of the Veil Keepers for its own. Bram warned her, "Trust no one, Vivienne. Not even yourself." The Collector's agents, cloaked figures with hollow eyes, stalked her relentlessly, always just beyond reach. The approach to the Collector's fortress, a crumbling obsidian tower known as the Black Spire, was fraught with peril. Vivienne and Bram navigated treacherous ravines and evaded patrols of corrupted guardians. Vivienne spent her days studying the grimoire, deciphering the collector's weaknesses. She prepared herself not for a battle of strength, but a battle of wills. She practiced the binding ritual, the only known method of containing the collector's power, but the ritual required a sacrifice, a piece of her own essence. The realization chilled her. This wasn't simply a fight to save the world, it was a fight to save herself. The Black Spire was a labyrinth of shadows and despair. Vivienne confronted the collector in the tower's central chamber, a vast cavern pulsating with dark energy. The collector, a being of pure malice, attempted to corrupt her, offering power and immortality in exchange for her allegiance. Vivienne resisted, drawing upon the strength of her ancestors and the memory of her quiet life. The binding ritual was agonizing, a tearing of soul and spirit, but Vivienne persevered, channeling her energy into the ancient symbols carved into the chamber floor. The collector roared in fury, its form dissolving as the binding took hold. With the collector contained, Vivienne seized the shard of Ethel, a crystal fragment that held the key to restoring the veil between worlds. The shard wasn't a weapon, but a conduit, a vessel for channeling and focusing energy. It pulsed with warmth in her hand, a beacon of hope in the darkness. It didn't grant her power, but amplified her own, allowing her to mend the tears in reality that the collector had created. But the victory was bittersweet. The ritual had taken a toll, leaving her weakened and vulnerable. The journey back to the village was slow and arduous. Vivienne, aided by a recovering Brahm, retraced her steps, mending the damage caused by the collector. The forest, once hostile, now felt grateful. The mark on her palm, once a source of dread, now felt like a connection, a responsibility. She knew she couldn't return to her old life. She was no longer just Vivienne Blackthorn, the retired herbalist. She was something more. Just as Vivienne reached the edge of the village, she was confronted by a figure she hadn't anticipated. Isolde. Isolde revealed herself to be not a mentor, but a guardian of the collector, a failsafe designed to ensure the collector's eventual return. Isolde challenged Vivienne, forcing her to confront the darkness within herself, the lingering doubts and fears that threatened to consume her. Vivienne, drawing upon the strength she'd gained throughout her journey, refused to yield, embracing her destiny as a veilkeeper. Vivienne returned to the village, not as the woman who left, but as a protector. She established a hidden sanctuary, a place where she could train others to defend against the encroaching darkness. The mark on her palm, no longer a burden, was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of despair, light could prevail. She had returned with more than just a victory. She had returned with a purpose, a legacy. She'd retired once, but her true life, she now understood, had only just begun.